I want to tell you something that took me a very long time to hear from God. You might not be ready for the relationship you are praying for. Not because you are broken, not because you are too damaged or too far behind or carrying too much, but because God is doing something in you right now that has to be finished first. And the relationship, if you enter it now, will just interrupt it. I know that is not easy to hear. I know because I did not want to hear it either. And what God showed me about why through the story of a woman gleaning in a field who had no idea her life was about to change is what I want to show you today. Hey, welcome to Beyond Believing. I am Katie Ann. Today, I want to speak to the woman who is praying for Boaz. She knows what she wants, she has done the work, and she's genuinely believing that she's ready. And I want to speak to the woman who has told herself she has stopped wanting him, that desiring a godly relationship is selfish or premature or evidence that she has not surrendered enough, that her children are enough, her calling is enough, God is enough, and she has made a theology out of not wanting this. Both of these women have a version of ready that I want to gently, lovingly challenge today. I want to tell you what ready looked like for me because I had a very convincing version of it, and I'm sure you do too. I had done real work after my divorce, not performance, actual internal, very painful work. I had gone through the grief, rebuilt my identity, understood patterns I had been carrying without even knowing I was. I had laid desires before God in prayer, and I meant it. I had surrendered what I knew how to surrender, and I genuinely believed that I was fully prepared. Not arrogantly, not naively, because I had evidence, I had changed. I could look back at who I was 2 years before and see the distance I had traveled. But here's what I did not see what I was doing underneath all of that real, sincere preparation. I was building a case, a quiet internal argument for why I was ready. And the case was good. It was honest. It pointed to real growth, but it was still a case, meaning I had already arrived at the conclusion and I was gathering evidence to support it. And underneath the case was a question I had never stopped to ask. God, is this the season you are calling me into? Or is this the season I have decided it is? Those are not the same question. Now I want to speak to the other woman in this room, the one who has decided she is not looking for Boaz, not because she has found peace about it, but because she has built a theology around not wanting it. She says, my children are my priority. My calling is enough. I have given this to God and I am trusting him. Wanting a relationship is selfish or premature or evidence that I have not surrendered fully. And I want to say this with complete care because I understand this version too. There is a difference between surrendering a desire and suppressing it. Surrendering a desire means you have brought it honestly to God and placed it in his hands, and you have genuine peace, not because you have stopped wanting it, but because you trust his timing more than your own. Suppressing a desire means you have decided it is safer not to want it. You have made your peace with the absence of it by convincing yourself that wanting itself is the problem. One of those is faith. The other is a wound wearing faith's clothing. Both women, the one praying for Boaz and the one who has decided she is done praying, have an incomplete version of ready. And the most complete picture of what readiness actually looks like, I found it in a field. In a woman who was not looking for anything except what she needed to survive the day. I want to take you to the second chapter of Ruth. And I want to tell you the parts most of us skim over. Ruth is a widow, a foreigner. She has walked away from her own country, her own family, everything familiar, to stay with Naomi, her mother-in-law, who has lost her husband and both her sons. Naomi tried to send Ruth back. She said, go home, return to your own people. I have nothing left to give you. I cannot give you another husband. Go. And Ruth said, No. In Ruth 1:16, she says, where you go, I will go. Where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God. That decision made before the field, before Boaz, before anything, is where Ruth's story actually begins. Not in the romance, in the faithfulness. They arrived in Bethlehem at the beginning of barley harvest, and Ruth said to Naomi, let me go to the fields and pick up the leftover grain behind anyone in whose eyes I find favor. Now, gleaning was the provision God had built into the law of Israel for the poor, the widow, and the foreigner, Ruth and Naomi. The harvesters were commanded to leave grain at the edges of the field, not to gather it all, so that those with nothing could come behind and collect what was left. It was not glamorous. It was not the position of a woman being seen. It was hard physical work under the sun, gathering what other people had chosen to leave behind. Ruth was not at the center of anything. She was doing the next available thing with everything she had to take care of the person God had put in her life. And then Boaz arrived. He came to his field and greeted his workers. And then he looked up and saw someone he did not recognize. In Ruth 2:5-6, he says, then Boaz said to his servant who was in charge of the reapers, whose young woman is this? And the servant answered, she is the young Moabite woman who came back with Naomi from the country of Moab. He asked about her. She did not know he was watching. She had not arranged to be seen. She had no idea who Boaz was at this point in the story. And what had he noticed? Not her beauty first, nor her eligibility. He had noticed her loyalty to Naomi, the way she worked, the character she was carrying into an ordinary, unglamorous day. And in Ruth 2:11, it says, all the city of my people know that you are a worthy woman. A worthy woman. She was not known for seeking. She was known for her character. And here is the detail I want you to sit with. Ruth did not know who Boaz was until she went home to Naomi that evening. Naomi had to tell her. She had gleaned all day in the field of her kinsman redeemer. Unknowingly, the man God had positioned to redeem her life, and she had gone home carrying grain and not a single thought about a kinsman redeemer or who he was, because she was not keeping track of him. She was not watching the horizon. She was in the field. I thought I was Ruth. I thought I was in the field, faithful, present, eyes on God, not on the horizon. But when I am honest, really honest about what I was doing in that season, I was gleaning in the field and watching the entrance. I was scanning the horizon. Every time a new connection came into view, I was assessing, not predatorily, genuinely, prayerfully, but I was looking. And the looking meant I was not fully present in the field I actually was in. I was asking God to guide me through relationships I had already entered. I was asking how to be ready, not if this was the season he was calling me into. Ruth was not positioning herself for Boaz or any man. She did not even know he was there to be positioned toward. That is the difference. So what does readiness actually look like? If it is not a threshold you cross when the healing is complete, it is a posture. And Ruth shows us what it looks like in 3 specific ways. First, she had full presence in the field she was actually in. Ruth was not wishing she was somewhere else. She was not planning her next season. She was fully present in the hard, humble, unglamorous work of the day God had given her. The question for you this week is not, when will I be ready? It is, am I fully in the field I am actually in right now? The field might be your children, your work, a season of healing that does not feel like progress, but is. The ministry you are quietly faithful to, the friendships you are investing in. Full presence in that field without one eye on the horizon, that is the first mark of the posture Ruth carried. Second, eyes on her assignment, not on who might notice. Ruth was not performing faithfulness. She was not being faithful strategically, hoping it would be seen. She gleaned, worked, carried the grain home to Naomi. and the noticing happened without her engineering it. There is a version of faithfulness that is still positioning, serving in places where she might be seen, showing up in spaces where the right person might notice, becoming the best version of yourself, but still with an audience in mind. Ruth had no audience in mind. She had a mother-in-law who needed grain. Ask yourself honestly, am I faithful because God has given me something to tend? Or am I faithful because I am hoping it will eventually be noticed? Third, her character that speaks before she does. When Boaz asked about Ruth, his servant did not say, she is the woman who came here hoping to meet someone. He said, she is the one who came back with Naomi. She is the one who has been working since morning. Her character was visible in the ordinary, in her loyalty to someone who could not repay her, in her work ethic on a day when no one she was trying to impress was watching. Readiness is not becoming who you think Boaz needs you to be. It is becoming through faithfulness to God and the people he has put in your life right now. The woman whose character is known before her name is. Now these three postures, presence, faithfulness without an audience, character built in the ordinary, that is what Ruth carried into the field. And I want to say something before we go to the landing, because I think it matters. What you decide in this season, whether to pursue love, to step back from it, is not the point. Some of you are genuinely ready and positioned to receive what God has prepared. Some of you truly do need to focus on your family and your own preparation right now. Some of you do need to choose to step back from dating for a season. None of those are wrong. The point is, who is directing the decision? When God is the center, when he is the focus and your heart is genuinely submissive and teachable before him, he will direct you to whatever he has prepared for you. You do not have to figure it out. You do not have to position yourself correctly. You do not have to know the answer, and you do not have to hide from it. That is what Ruth embodied. She did not decide to pursue Boaz. She did not decide to avoid him. She followed Naomi's guidance every step of the way. She kept a teachable, humble spirit, and that spirit put her in Boaz's field, in his line of sight, in his path. God brought Ruth to Boaz, not because she found him, because she was found. You are not behind, my friend. You are not disqualified. You are not too broken or too complicated or carrying too much history for what God has prepared for you. You are in the field, or you are being invited back into it. The question is not, when will I be ready? The question is, what has God given me to tend right now? And am I fully in it? Because the woman who is ready for Boaz is not the woman who has finished healing. She is the woman who has stopped looking for him long enough to become someone worth finding. Ruth did not find Boaz. She was found. Where will you be found? In the field? In the faithfulness? In the ordinary, unglamorous, fully present obedience of this exact season? And what it looks like to actually build that, to stop trying to build the right relationship and let God build the right you, that is what I want to talk about next. One question to carry with you for this week. Am I in the field, fully present, eyes on my assignment? Or am I still watching the entrance for Boaz? Just be honest, because that answer tells you exactly where to begin. This is the work that I do in my coaching, not to be the answer, but to point you to the one who is, to remind you that you have access to everything you truly desire and to help you begin living like it today. If that conversation is one you are ready to have, you can apply for coaching at coachkatieann.com/call. The link is in the show notes. And next week, I want to talk about what happens when you stop trying to build the right relationship and let God build the right you. Because what he showed me about my own hands in that process and what Proverbs has to say about the woman who does that work, I think is going to surprise you. Subscribe so you don't miss it.